Hey guys, welcome to the Punk Rock Condition, where we explore, discover, and appreciate all things punk rock. If that interests you, please subscribe. Here on today's episode, we're doing episode 2 of PRC Discography Rankings, and we are taking a look at one of my absolute all-time, no doubt about it, favorites, Strike Anywhere. Strike Anywhere doesn't have a ton of stuff. That's one of the only bummers about them, is that they don't have a giant discography. But what they do have is absolutely fantastic, so we'll run through it here. If you're unaware, Strike Anywhere is you could describe them as a melodic hardcore band. I just refer to them as a punk rock band. From Richmond, Virginia, they formed in 1999. Richmond's finest, in my opinion. All due respect to Avail, but Strike Anywhere is just about the best you're going to get. So they have kind of an interestingly put together discography, 4 proper full lengths and then some other smattering of stuff. So as I go through this stuff, I'll throw up one of my favorite songs from each album as I'm introducing them, so that if you're unfamiliar with Strike Anywhere, you'll get a little dose of what they sound like. And then we'll just go through it and talk a little bit more about Strike Anywhere at the end, and about Thomas Barnett, their singer, who oh god, he's just one of my favorites. His lyrics, his stage presence, everything about him. I'm just such a huge fan. I got a Strike Anywhere tattoo, for crying out loud. They are just the best. So we'll go in chronological order. Again, this is just subjective, but hopefully it would be helpful to anybody looking to get into them and to know where to start and stuff like that. And for anybody who's just a big fan, you can sit here and argue with my opinion. So let's start at the beginning with Change is a Sound.
Refuse to run, and I will die before I kneel in this blood. Systems, I promise we punish with love as our weapon, and unity with love and fire.
And this one is going to go up into the S tier. This was their first record, and it is flawless. I mean, you're going to hear me say that about all of their stuff. I don't really have anything bad to say about Strike Anywhere. I really, really don't. But Changes of Sound, when it came out, I just remember being so attracted to the sound because it was this unbelievable mix of crazy, screaming, speedy punk with all of this incredible melodic sensibility underneath of it, and this incredibly substantial message all at once. I was immediately in love with Strike Anywhere thanks to this album. And so although this ranking is going to be very, very difficult for me, if you force me to differentiate, which is exactly what I'm doing to myself here, I would say Changes of Sound is probably their best album. Number 3, Refusal, which is actually playing right now, is probably my favorite song on the record, but Sunset at 32nd Street is the song you're going to hear them close every single show with, without fail. And, You're Fired, the first song on there, is incredible. Number 9, Chalk Line, is kind of an unforgettable song. But, I felt like they were almost even saying, hey, I mean, were they self-aware enough to know what we're doing here no one else does? Change is a sound. Because that mix of screaming and singing and energy, I never quite heard it done that way, quite that well before. There's some early Rise Against that rivals this stuff in terms of just the genre, the sound itself. But other than that, there's been bands that have come after that basically you can tell, oh, okay, cool, they're trying to sound like Strike Anywhere. And I always like it when I find a band like that, they're at least doing it well. Some early No Trigger stuff is in that neighborhood. And then you'll just hear a band from time to time be like, oh, they're trying to sound like Strike Anywhere, because Strike Anywhere has their own fucking thing, man. They're just so goddamn good. But that brings us to Exit English, which came out next. And honestly, if somebody had Exit English as their favorite Strike Anywhere record, I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's totally legit. It's just about as good as Changes of Sound, and it might even have a little bit more polish to it in terms of how it's recorded. Man, the beginning of that record, We Amplify, Blaze, Infrared, To the World. If you listen to those 4 songs and you don't like them, so you don't like punk rock, they're just so incredible. I remember seeing Strike Anywhere a bunch around the time they were touring Exit English, and just they're some of my favorite shows I ever saw. I would leave Strike Anywhere shows and like go into a depression for a couple days afterwards because it was so satisfying to see them do their thing, especially around that time. Exit English is a flawless album. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just incredible stuff. It's the thing about Strike Anywhere. It's like if you like 1 or 2 of their songs, how could you not like them all? Because they're not particularly dynamic band. They don't have a whole lot of versatility. They do what they do, and they do it amazingly. But it's like if you like 1 or 2 of their songs, just listen to all of them. They're just freaking amazing. And I might as well point out number 10 on Exit English, Extinguish, a really underrated song in their discography. And it is a time when you hear them get a little bit slower, but man, what a great song. And then I even remember hearing one of those songs. I forget which one. It might have been Aluminum Union on Viva La Bam one time. And I'm like, God damn it, get this off of MTV. Bam. Piece of shit. Yeah, let's move along to Dead FM.
It's the one we fight against. We go, we go, we go. The one we fight against. We go, we go. So I write these words now. Bring you my friends after all this time. We may never sing this one. It's just here. I still like to help you.
So Dead FM is when Strike Anywhere signed to Fat Records. This is when the whole punk rock world took notice. Clearly Fat Mike took notice. And I think you'll hear some of their edge taken back like 1 increment on Dead FM. So if I have to knock something for some reason, I guess I'll say that Dead FM is the most like palatable dialed back record that they have. But make no mistake, it's badass. It's amazing. I love Dead FM. Prisoner Echoes number 3 is quite possibly my favorite Strike Anywhere song. Speak to Our Empty Pockets. Number 1, Sedition is amazing. Just every single song on the album is really good. I guess maybe there's a little dip on a song or 2. But I love Dead FM. But we'll put it just behind Exit English in the A tier. Now we go on to Live in Discontent. Which at the end of the day is not a standalone record. It's a B-side thing. I think they kind of emptied out the closet and they put everything that they had floating around onto one release. And this is not where anybody should start if you're trying to get into Strike Anywhere. This is where you'll hear, it's pretty stripped down. And it's got some different versions of songs that are on other albums. But if you listen to all the rest of Strike Anywhere stuff and then you come to this, it's so good. I love this record. And Antidote number 2 is the song that I yell at every Strike Anywhere show, like, yo, play Antidote. Because it's just such a great song, and I can't believe it didn't make it onto their other albums as good as it is, and some of the really cool lyrics on that tune. But that also, number 4, Question the Answer. The breakdown in that song is second to none. Really good album, but, it's not particularly polished, but still a great album. So I'll put it there in the B tier. That brings us now to In Defiance of Empty Times.
I woke up sitting there, but no one heard. Giant river shining into the world. What was I dreaming of? And I missed all the gardens, all the animals' footprints. train, another train, peace gives way, another master, another day. Old lands, cities forgotten, old lands, cross the road.
Which was an acoustic album. And listen, it's very good. All the songs that they are so good, but there are certain bands when they go to strip down, super aggressive songs and repurpose them as acoustic songs, that it just works better than others. And although they do a good job on the album, all listening to those stripped down versions makes me want to do is go listen to the actual album and go listen to it. Just takes me right there. Whereas certain bands, you actually enjoy the slower rendition in and of itself, which I don't get from this album. But the renditions themselves are great, so I have nothing against that album. And I also love that on both of these records right here, To Live in Discontent and In Defiance of Empty Times, they're repurposing lyrics from some of their more iconic songs. So it's just a very cohesive, smart thing to do. And for that matter, Strike Anywhere is the name of an Inquisition song, which was a band that Thomas Barnett was in before Strike Anywhere. So there's a lot of shuffling around of cool ideas that they do. So there you go with In Defiance of Empty Times. So we'll put that in the B tier. And then that brings us to Iron Front. Which was really their last proper full length that they put out. And they left Fat Records. They only did one album on Fat Records. And I remember going to see Strike Anywhere when they were touring Iron Front. And I was absolutely obsessed with it. They had left Fat Records. And I think they put Iron Front out on Bridge 9, which is more of a hardcore record label. But don't quote me on that. I haven't thought about it in a long time. But that's what I think they did. And I remember talking to their merch guy at the show and being like, why the hell Strike Anywhere leave Fat? They're like the greatest band in the world. Fat's the greatest label in the world. Like, I loved that marriage. It was a long time ago, and I was certainly doing some drinking that night. But my takeaway from it was that there was a creative difference. Like, I think that they wanted them to continue to get a little softer, a little bit more palatable. And Strike Anywhere was just like, nah, look, we do what we do, guys. We play at 1,000,000 miles an hour and we scream our faces off. So if we need to go do that somewhere else, we will. And I think ultimately there was a creative disagreement with what they should be doing with the band. And Strike Anywhere was like, peace, we're out of here. So they put out Iron Front, and Iron Front is phenomenal, man. It's just, it's got no bad songs on it. I love it to death. I listen to it all day long. I'm Your Opposite Number is one of their bigger songs. Hand of Glory is an incredible song. Failed State is an incredible song. The whole thing is great. But let's not get away from here without talking about First Will and Testament. That song will make you cry. And then Postcards from Home, the final song on Iron Front, is definitely up there with one of my favorites of all time. But Iron Front is absolutely fantastic. So that's also going to be up in the A tier. That brings us to their most recent release that they put out all the way back in 2020. I can't believe it's been that long now. Nightmares of the West.
Nightmares of the West. You're a soldier, and you just want to live to see home. But there's war in our country too, and blood billionaires between me and you. Let the ship burn with the ocean, and every shade and every color. Let the ship burn with the ocean. The tide is rising over.
Which is phenomenal. All right, yeah, big surprise. I think it's phenomenal. The only bummer about it is that it's only 7 songs, so I don't know if you could really call it a full length, but I guess it technically qualifies as one. And if I'm not mistaken, the 6th song on there is actually a cover of a friend of theirs that was in a band that I think a member passed away. So it's like almost like an homage that they put that on there. So they're not all Strike Anywhere originals. The one is a cover. But other than that, I guess the Dress the Wounds would probably be my favorite on there, but honestly, it's such a short album. You don't need me to tell you, hey, just check this one or two songs. Just listen to the whole thing. It's absolutely phenomenal. They're so grown up that this is them just being like, look how good we are. And look how good we could be if this was our number one priority. Because with Strike Anywhere is like the way that they just kind of don't tour a whole lot and they never really got all that big. I can't imagine what they actually do with their lives, but I don't feel like Strike Anywhere is the number one priority. But this record right here, Nightmares of the West, showing up in the way that it did, and the maturity and the skill and the hooks on this little release is just their way of sticking their head up and going like, yo, just so everybody knows, we're the shit. And we could do this if we wanted to more, but for whatever reason, we don't. Nightmares of the West, unbelievable. Absolutely love it. So there it is right there, guys. That is Strike Anywhere's discography ranked by an absolute monster fan. You know, the truth is I could have put all four of those A-tier records just up on S right next to Changes of Sound, and I would have been fine with it, with calling all 5 records S-tier records. But for the sake of a ranking, I decided to just crown Changes of Sound. But the big difference between those 5 records, it's not much. It's really not much. They're just all great. So yeah, guys, just another point. So that's the end of the ranking there. Just another point to be made about Thomas Barnett, their singer, their vocalist. If you're a fan of his voice and his lyrics and his message, which he's one of my absolute favorites. I've also met him a couple of times, 3 or 4 times. He's such a kind, approachable, intelligent, soft-spoken, brilliant, wonderful human being. I've had several conversations with him about just how much I love the band, but also some specifics about songs that he had written and about his band. And I showed him my tattoo and stuff, and he was just so real and so cool. He's everything you would want that you would expect and want from someone that you look up to and admire like that. You know, sometimes people say, don't meet your heroes, blah, blah, blah. Not in this case. Thomas Barnett's the man. But anyway, if you like him, like I'm trying to say here, he also was in a band called Inquisition before Strike Anywhere, and they have a good bit of stuff. But one record in particular, Revolution, I think it's called Inspiration, is a record that you should check out if you're super into Strike Anywhere and you don't know about it, and kind of see where he was at, because it's a good album, and see what they were doing, like almost the breadcrumbs, the roots of what Strike Anywhere became. You can see it in Inquisition. So that's to mention. And then also, somewhere probably between Iron Front and Nightmares of the West, Thomas Barnett went off and got in a band called The Great Collapse. And they're a bit of a super group. I can't remember. I think one of the members might have been in Rise Against. But at one point, I did know all the guys in that band. But Thomas Barnett essentially fronts the band. And although it's a little bit overproduced, and sometimes they put some, dare I say it, auto-tune on my voice, those fucking records rule. Great Collapse has 2 albums, and it's almost like a stand-in for Strike Anywhere, where it's like, okay, I don't have enough Strike Anywhere, but I'll go over here and listen to Great Collapse, and I'll get my fix, right? Holy War. What an album. And then their second record, which I can't remember, something about Moscow or whatever. Also, fucking so good. But you could get a little annoyed by some of the vocal production. But I see right through it. Phenomenal lyrics, hooks for days. It's like a little baby version of Strike Anywhere. So for anybody that doesn't know about Inquisition or Great Collapse, and you like Strike Anywhere, check that stuff out. Hope you guys enjoyed the ranking. Let me know what you agree with or disagree with. And if you're just finding your way to get into Strike Anywhere, go in order there. Follow my lead. I promise you'll end up a Strike Anywhere lunatic. So I hope I get to see Strike Anywhere another time or two. I haven't seen them in years. I love them. And if anybody in Strike Anywhere comes along this video, go write some new stuff. I love you guys. Appreciate it. All right, guys, episode 2 of PRC Discography Rankings, Strike Anywhere. See you guys on the next one.
Just sleep when I do everything.